Rügenische Kleinbahn is a narrow gauge operation serving the resort area of Rügen Island in Germany. Once part of the DDR, its restored tank locomotives and scenic ride make it a definite tourist destination.
Rügen Island sits in the Baltic Sea off the northern coast of Germany. At 350 square miles, it is Germany's largest island. For more than 100 years, it has also been one of its most popular tourist destinations. A 1.5-mile-long bridge separates the island from mainland Germany. People come here for the rejuvenating powers of the air and water, and they come for the beauty. The primary attractions are still the sparkling sand beaches, which offer solitude and relaxation. The stunning white limestone-like salt cliffs, carved by nature out of the island's eastern shore over millions of years. Impressive architecture fronting the luxurious resort hotels and spas which have attracted visitors for generations. And of course, the century-old Rügen Railway, offering visitors and residents an historical experience that is becoming increasingly rare in both Europe and across the world. Since the line was privatized in the 1990s, it has become even more of a polished attraction to those visiting the island. It runs from one resort town to the next and past some of the most beautiful sights the island has to offer. It's a narrow-gauge, steam-blowing family attraction, and it's constantly under restoration. And each one of the locomotives has a story to tell, as do the employees who work them.
In
the Prussian state, they had a special railroad law, which simply made it easier for local communities to build narrow-gauge railroads. And it was only about a third of the cost compared to building a standard-gauge railroad. So it was a cheap way to build. The right-of-way had only sand and gravel, and they used nails to fix the rails instead of screws. So they could build the lines very fast and cheap. And you could build tight curves, which allowed you to build spurs to private customers at almost any location. So even a lot of the farmers got their own spurs.
Die landwirtschaftlichen Flächen wurden praktisch mit angebunden und deswegen die schmale Spur, sie ließ sich besser bilden.
We have a lot of special stories, but one of the most interesting is from a particularly hard winter. We always have strong winds on the island, even in winter, and that causes some pretty high snowdrifts. Back in the winter of 1978-79, we had snowdrifts over 3 meters high, which means that the snowdrifts were higher than the locomotives. And one of the trains, which ran between Serums and Binz, was stopped by a drift. We needed 1,000 people to go there and just dig out the train. We started digging at the roof of the locomotive. We worked so hard and got so warm that we had to take off our wool and cotton jackets and hang them on top of the light poles. That's how high the snow was, so high that we stood close to the top of the poles. The roof of the train was even with the top of the snowdrift.
Well, I bought this engine back in 1980. It was built before the Second World War for the German Army. It was in service with the army, even in Russia. It survived being in Russia. And then after the war, it came down to Austria. There it was in service for 32 years, along with 3 different lines, state lines.
After World War II, the German railroad, the Deutsche Reichsbahn, or DR, operated this narrow gauge until it was given back to the former owners, the county, and that was in 1996. The DR used the most modern locomotives of the former private Rügenische Kleinbahn, the Vulcans, from 1914 and 1923. In 1965, the DR brought two very modern Henschel steam locomotives from a closed narrow-gauge railroad here to Rügen. In the 1980s, three big 210-2 Type 7Ks were brought from Saxony to Rügen. They were really much too big for Rügen, but at that time the DR only had these locomotives to upgrade the rolling stock here. In the past 20 years, every one of us on the staff learned to run these locomotives. We had to. And today they are still workhorses here, especially in our busy season.
Mit den hiesigen, unter den hiesigen Bedingungen sehr gut bewährt, werden vom Personal angenommen.
Altogether, there are 7 steam locomotives here, which are owned by Rügenische Kleinbahn, and 2 more are rented. And we have 2 diesel locomotives as well. One of them is extremely rare. It had been built in World War II for military service.
Wovon Sie ja noch in der nächsten Zeit mehr hören werden. Und dann, wie gesagt, 2 Diesellok. Eines der einzigsten Heeresfeldbahn-Diesellokomotiven, die es noch in Deutschland gibt, die noch betriebsfähig ist auf einer öffentlichen Eisenbahn.
Ich habe als Kind die Schmalspurbahn kennengelernt in meiner Heimat.
We had a narrow gauge railroad in my hometown, so I had been very familiar with narrow gauge ever since I was a young child. And I guess what you like as a child, you will probably like as an adult as well. My big love are the narrow gauges, just exactly like the one in my hometown where I grew up. So I'm a big rail fan to begin with, and I'm especially interested in narrow gauge railroads. Then, here in Rügen, a lifelong dream came true, to have my very own narrow gauge railroad. I have lots of fun, and the employees all really work so hard to satisfy our visitors. I do hope that lots of people will come to Rügen Island and do this railroad. It really does make me happy. My main job is being publisher of a model railroad magazine, Model Eisenbahner, and now I'm running this real railroad too. So isn't that the best situation of all, to be able to combine your hobby with your business?
The Rügen Island Railroad will put you right on track to a simpler time in a beautiful place. All you have to do is enjoy it.